Hey guys, it's Bonnie. Started thinking about this the last day or so and could not get it off my mind. And I want to title this video, "The One Thing You Can Teach Your Kids to Help Them Succeed Beyond Anything Else in the Entire World." And I know that's a bold claim, but I'll back it up, I promise you. And I'm going to get a little spiritual, so if that's not your jam, you don't have to watch, no problem. But I really, really think this is important for every mother out there. To hear, to think about, to ponder, and to figure out how to apply it in your own life. So here we go. I firmly 100% believe that the one thing you can teach your kids to help them succeed, be happy, and love you and everyone around them for the rest of their lives is absolute values, aka a belief in the higher being. And I know that sounds super simplistic and yeah, but what next? But hear me out. I'm going to explain a little bit. So it's not a mystery that I believe in God. I talk about it a lot. I'm a Christian, but I really believe that a belief in any higher being, whatever you want to call it, and the fact that this higher being gives us absolute values, meaning truths that we adhere to that never change, right? That there's a right, there's a wrong, there's a black, there's a white, and those never change. Because according to God, or this higher being that you believe in, that is the truth, okay? Now there are a handful of reasons why this is so important to believe and to teach children. Number one, everyone needs a foundation in their life, right? Houses need foundations, cars need really good chassis. That's what they're called, by the way. My dad's a car guy. Everybody needs a base, a foundation, something that takes care of them and holds on to them when life gets shaky and when you hit the bumps and the potholes and everything in the road, okay? If you do not, or your children do not have a firm foundation, then when things hit the fan, everything's gonna fall apart, okay? And again, primary lesson we've all learned about as a kid, if a house is built on a sandy foundation, what happens when the waves crash against it? It disintegrates, it falls apart. It can really look solid, it really can. Our lives can seem like we've got everything together and everything's working great, but when the hard times really hit, everything's gonna fall apart if we do not have a foundation. And what I mean by that foundation is we have to know what is right and what is wrong, and have to know that there is a higher being requiring us to make the right choices. Now, that doesn't mean that we always will make the right choices, even if we are trying really, really hard. It doesn't mean that we will always even want to make the right choices. So that leads me into the next segment I want to talk about. So you as a parent have your kids' best interest at heart, right? You want them to succeed, you want them to be happy, you want them to be healthy, you want them to find someone to love, you want them to maybe build a family of their own, have everything they need temporally, and really just get a purpose out of life, right? Here's the thing. They will not always care what you think. Whether they're 3 or 13 or 37, I'm assuming. I'm not a mom of a 37-year-old, but I'm pretty sure this is kind of a constant. There's going to be phases in your kid's life where they don't care what you think. They just don't. And it's kind of heartbreaking to think you give everything to your kids and you're giving up your body and your sleep and your time and your emotions and everything to help these kids get a head start in life. And sometimes they just don't care. They're like, peace, mom, whatever. I don't care about you. And as heartbreaking as that is, that's just a natural fact of life. Look back at your own life. There have been times when you have not cared about what your mother or father has said. You have not cared about what your community leaders say or what the rules of the land are, the laws of the land, there always comes a time of rebellion for everyone. I really believe this is true. Sometimes they're little rebellions, sometimes they're massive rebellions, but everybody wants to rebel at some point. Rebelling against a parent is easy. You just do the exact opposite of what your parent wants to do. Rebelling against the laws of the land, you do illegal stuff. Rebelling against your school's dress code, I don't know, you wear shorts that are too short, whatever. There's always a time when a kid will want to rebel. Rebelling against a parent is easy because you will always find someone out there in the world who wants to rebel with you, right? Yeah, man, forget our parents. They do stupid stuff. They tell us to do lame things. They want to kill our vibe, whatever. Here I am thinking I'm cool. But here's the thing about absolute values. So that right and wrong that are absolute, that they've been taught, are not shaken by the winds of the storm. Because God is such a rock, unchanging, ever-present, ever-loving, all-knowing, it's not very satisfying to rebel against God. He won't throw a big hissy fit when your kids sass and rebel and say they hate him. He won't get angry or yell or scream or all those things that we do that really kind of satisfies our kids' need to fight against us, right? Instead, God just loves them all the time, no matter what. And eventually, even if they rebel against their parents and the laws of the land and everything till the day they die, God will always have a place for them to come back to. Okay? I really firmly believe that. So if your kids are struggling against you, if they're struggling against school or all these other authority figures or systems in their life, if we can just get them to understand that God loves them no matter what, our job is done. Number 2, this goes right along with it. And I mentioned this, God is all loving and loves our children unconditionally. And get this, ready for your mind to explode, God loves our kids more than we do. I really believe that the purpose, one of the big purposes of having a family is so that we can understand just a little bit of what that higher power feels for us. Like, imagine your love for your tiny infant, for your struggling 10-year-old, for your wayward 20-year-old. That's the love God has for every one of us, even if we're total punks. Right? So mind-blowing, so awesome. So because he loves our kids unconditionally, he will always parent completely fairly, right? And we will not. We try so hard, we really do. I read a parenting book once, and I can't remember the name of it now, but I will link it in the description. Talking about how parents really, most parents, the vast majority of parents really do not love their children unconditionally. That's kind of a hard pill to swallow, right? We're like, not me. I love my kids unconditionally. But really, the author states that if we really loved our kids unconditionally, we would never show blame or shame. We would never try to manipulate them into doing what's right, right? Oftentimes we parent out of how we feel rather than how we should parent our kids, because, rather than it being all about them. So it's a little bit about us. But God's not like that at all. Everything he does is out of pure love for us and for our children. So when people and kids understand that, even a small portion of it, it becomes so much easier to get back on the right track, right? We make mistakes, we do stupid stuff, we rebel. And coming back to our parents might be a little difficult, especially if they were like, see, I told you so. Or, oh, you're making good choices now, huh? Like, I've done it, let's be honest. But God will never do that. And when we come back and are like, hey, I screwed up, he'll be like, I know, I love you, I'm so glad you're back. Right? Like, wouldn't you much rather come back to a parent like that than a parent who's giving you the I told you so treatment? One of my biggest mistakes right now, and I'm sure this happens to a lot of you too, is that I try to get in the way of my kids' relationship with God. So instead of saying, you need to go pray about that, I'll say, well, I'll pray about it. We'll see if that's a good decision. Some of us, well, most of us probably, are a little hesitant to relinquish the control of telling our kids what to do. But they have to get to a stage in life where they no longer come to us for those big decisions. They come to God. So here's another little example. When I was a senior in college, high school, living at home, I was going to prom with my then boyfriend. It was going to be a great time. He was a great guy, had a great group of friends, and I really wanted to stay out all night. We were going to go have a party at his house. It's totally going to be safe, all these great group of kids. And I asked my parents, look, I'm almost 18. What do you say? I was like 3 months shy of turning 18. What do you say? I think I deserve the right to stay out all night. And so my parents, to my surprise, said, we're not going to say yes or no. We think that that's a decision that you should make. And you should probably think about it, maybe pray about it, because it's kind of a big one. Bad things could happen, Let us know what you decide. And I was like, no. And here's why. I think that a kid who had not had a really strong relationship with God and understood those right versus wrong morals, those absolute morals, would have been like, sweet, peace out, rinse. I'm going to go hang all night long with my friends. Because the parents had given, had relinquished control. Sweet, parents aren't controlling me anymore. But I really believe that my parents had taught me early on to keep that connection with God and to make the decision that was morally right. Right? And I'm not saying that any kid that stays out all night is making a morally wrong decision, but for my situation in that scenario, there was a right and there was a wrong choice. And I needed to figure it out, and it sucked. I was like, no, I don't want to figure it out, because then if I make the mistake, it's on me. It's not on you guys. Do you see how we're giving our kids both the power to make better choices, but also the responsibility to be accountable for those choices? Whoa. So when they screw up, there's no one to blame but themselves and their own choices. And that might seem harsh. Like we just want to shelter our kids and keep them protected from everything. But that's our job, is literally to work ourselves out of a job, to make ourselves irrelevant, to be the parent that just comes and says, I'm sorry that happened to you, honey, I love you, and hug them, instead of the I told you so parent, because it's now their choices and not our choices. So anyway, long story short, guess what I decided? I decided not to stay out all night. It really was the right decision, but it was a huge learning step for me. Huge. Was I mad? No. Was I a little disappointed? Yeah, because I really wanted to have the fun experience, but I really knew deep down that I was not going to want to live with that decision because I knew it was wrong. So another quick little analogy here. Are you guys familiar with Les Miserables? So I love that book. I love that play. There's a scene when Jean Valjean steals the silver from the bishop. Okay, so this bishop brings him in. He's an ex-con. No one will help him out. Bishop brings him in, gives him a meal, lets him spend the night, and when Jean Valjean takes off in the morning, he steals a bunch of stuff. Okay, so cops catch him, bring him back to the bishop, and say, Bishop, what do you want to do with this guy? We caught him stealing all your stuff. And what does the bishop say? No, I gave him that stuff. So the cops are like, oh, all right, well, see ya. Cops leave. Jean Valjean is like, what just happened? Jean Valjean is floored. Everyone has screwed him over for 20 years, and now this bishop has just given him literally everything he has and has told him, I have now bought your soul for God. So you can't screw up anymore because I just sacrificed a bunch of stuff to give you the best go at life. And what happens next is like my very favorite part in the whole book and movie, because it's Jean Valjean struggling with his inside self saying, what do I do now? I got two choices and two choices only. I can go back to my old life, or I can let it all go and choose to go the higher road and choose to follow God. Like what a choice, right? I mean, by all accounts and purposes, he deserved to be bitter. He did. He was dealt a bad hand, and now he's screwed for the rest of his life because he's got this ex-con notice that no one will hire him, whatever. But instead of choosing that life of bitterness and anger and take that world kind of thing, he followed the bishop's example and chose the higher road. And that's what the whole story is about him caring for others and taking them in to kind of atone for those sins, you know. And I really feel like we all have points like that in our life, and our kids will too, where we have to choose that road or that road, you know. And there's going to be a lot of them, and it doesn't mean we can't ever come back and choose a different one. But every time we choose that higher road, we're going to learn something. We're going to strengthen something inside of us a little bit more. And by taking that away from our children, we take away from them the opportunity to grow, right? Now, obviously, you don't give these dire choices to your 3-year-old, right? Obviously, you teach them and you show them by example how to make these decisions early on, but eventually we have to just let go of the reins. Finally, one last thing I wanted to mention about this is not only are there right and wrong paths in our life, there are good, better, and best, right? You guys ever heard that? Sometimes decisions that I make in my life I think are really good decisions, and then later on I realize that was a good decision, but it wasn't the best decision, right? I just bring that up because guess who knows what the best use of our time is at all times? God. So that's another thing that we can teach our kids, is that if you are struggling with a decision and there's no clear right and there's no clear wrong, it seems like they're both good decisions, there's only one person that knows what the best decision for you is going to be. Now, you weigh your options, you do your research, you think about it long and hard, you do your pros and your cons list, you ask people, and then before you make your decision, you ask the higher power, because he's the one that is going to know the end from the beginning. It's like your life is a choose your own adventure book, and he's the only one that has read all the paths, like all the infinite paths, and he knows how it's all going to work out, and he can tell you what the best decision is, and even understand your heart sometimes better than you do and better than your kid does. Anyway, that is what I had weighing on my heart. I really hope it spoke to you somehow and helps you feel some encouragement. Teaching them about God is the best way to do it, and the best way to teach them that there is a right and a wrong way, and they can find the answers to those questions by questioning the big guy. And we will help them the best way we know how, but their relationship with him is the utmost important. So, love you guys. Thanks for watching. I will see you later.